Hi, I'm Peggy at Portraits by Peggy, and today I'm joined with Ani Antonian. She is one of the amazing talent agents at Avalon Artist Group here in Los Angeles, and she has some very, very useful information she's going to share with us. Ani, I'm so excited that you joined me today, and I know that you have so much useful information, and thanks for inviting me to your swanky office. This is so fun.
Here today.
Yes, it's so fun. So I have a couple of questions I'm going to ask you, and then I'm going to give it to you, and you can just impart all of your wisdom to us, okay?
Sure.
So the first question I really want to ask you, and the reason I'm asking this is I've been a portrait photographer for a long time, professionally since 1989, and I've been doing headshots for quite some time, and it's not just my goal to give my clients a pretty picture, but it's my goal to help them with their marketing strategy. And you know, headshots are a big part of marketing strategy. But as an agent, what would you give advice to an actor that wants a meeting with you? How does an actor get an agent? What do you expect in that hard copy submission? What information do you need?
Okay, so my first piece of advice would be to take an acting class. Just because, especially if you are a new actor, you should definitely know if this is the right path for you to take. Once you are in that class, you can shine, you learn so much, and you basically find out if you are committed enough. Once you are, the first step is done. Second step is to get some headshots. Now, you are going to probably want some commercial headshots as well as theatrical headshots, so smiley, bright pictures, just like Peggy has talked about in her previous vlogs, I'm sure, as well as darker, more edgy theatrical headshots. Once you have those taken care of, you can either do your own research or call agencies. So I say to call an agency just because they usually have their own submission policies up on their websites, and not all of them do. So check their websites first because every agent has a different submission policy. Some are email only, some are hard copy only, some are drop-offs. You just never know. So call the agency and find out what the submission policy is. Once you found that out, go ahead and do as they say. So here at Avalon Artist Group, we accept only hard copy submissions. We do not accept walk-ins, unfortunately, even though we would love to say hello to you. Just please wait for us to call you. So mail us your hard copy headshot, mail us a hard copy resume, and mail us a hard copy cover letter, just telling us a little bit about yourself and your past, your present, and what your goals are for the future.
That's great information.
Thank you.
So basically, get your ducks in a row and then make a submission. Mm-hmm. Now, another question I know people have, what is your process for submitting, once you have a client, as an agent, how do you choose who you submit for what project? Basically, what's your process for submitting? Because I know, actors can self-submit, but when you have an agent, they're going to be more fine-tuned. And so
absolutely.
What's your process?
So every morning we as agents get into the office and we open up all the breakdowns that are casting. We use casting profiles on websites. So we use Casting Networks, Casting Frontier, and Actors Access. Casting Networks and Casting Frontier are commercial websites, and Actors Access is more focused on TV and film and theater. Open them all up and see what has been posted. From there, we submit all of our actors based on the role they fit best. To each role. So it might be one job with 10 roles, it might be one job with one role. Whatever they're looking for, we pick and choose from our roster and hit the submit button. Now, it is a good policy to submit between 10 and 15 per role, so that way casting knows we're not just submitting everybody that we represent. That wouldn't be fair to them. We have to pick and choose who we think is the most qualified.
So tell me how important it is. Okay, so an actor comes to me, we do headshots. A lot of times they get several looks, 5 or 6 looks. How important is it to you to have different looks on? I mean, Now, an actor doesn't carry around a bazillion hard copies. They usually carry around maybe one or two, maybe a commercial, maybe a theatrical, because once in a while they're going to go to an audition and they're going to say, hey, I want your headshot, but it's rare. Yes. Most of it is done online. So how important is it to you to have those different headshots at your fingertips?
So it's so important, I cannot even stress. So yes, she's right. We usually recommend that you print one commercial headshot and one theatrical headshot to take to auditions with you. But to have a selection online, a good variety is so important because there are millions of roles out there and each one is different than the other. You will never find the same role twice. So for example, commercials. You can have the bright, helpful Honda guy versus the guy who just rolled out of bed and is in a Tostitos commercial. Each one is completely different, even though they're both commercials. So you're going to have one looking more hipster, more hip and trendy, and you're going to have one more clean-cut polo shirt. Same goes with theatrical. You can have one that's more serious, more dark, maybe a troubled character, versus somebody super clean like Big Bang Theory.
Right. So I know actors ask me that all the time, and I'll get, well, I just need one. And it's like, well, no, because, if they're asking for soccer mom or if they're asking for businesswoman, you may be able to pull both of those roles off, but you have to have that headshot for you to submit. Otherwise, they're going to get it and be like, that doesn't look like a soccer mom.
Exactly.
So.
And it can only hurt you because casting directors, for the most part, receive about 5,000 submissions per role.
5,000 submissions per role. Yeah. So I'm gonna put a little plug in here.
Yes.
Because I tell people it's so important that you go to a photographer, that you don't have to come to me, because everybody, I'm not a fit for everyone. You have to, know their personality. You have to be a fit, but you do have to find someone that you're a fit with, because that headshot has to match you.
Yes.
That headshot is so important. You're not even going to get in the room. That's crazy.
It's ridiculous. And for the most part, when casting directors are looking through the submissions, they just have a little thumbnail that they can take a look at. And if your thumbnail doesn't pop or read the character right away, you're most likely going to get skipped.
Yeah. So, there's, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail today because I want to pick your brain, but, there's some do's and don'ts, some trendy fad things that will actually get you kicked out. The casting, they won't even look at it. They're like, it needs to look like this. They don't want horizontal. They want it to be, they're going quick. They don't need all the trendy things. You need to pop quick. So, now, those of you that follow me know that I have been a child photographer for years and years and years, more years than I want to admit. So I know how it is to work with kids. Now, you're in charge of the youth department here, and you have amazing young talent on your roster. And so what is it that you want to tell parents? Because I know, for me, as a child photographer, I loved the kids. It was always the parents that I was like, no, why don't you get this? Because, seriously, as a parent, we get a little, because I'm a parent, so I'll put myself in that. There are times we get a little crazy and we think, we don't really think rationally. We can think rationally with our business, we can think rationally, but when it comes to our kids, so what do you wish you could, advice you could give parents and tips and what's your do's and don'ts, your pet peeves, maybe even a funny story?
Okay.
Don't name names. Tell after. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I'm very fortunate. Most of the parents I work with, we vibe very well together, and I tell them from the get-go what I like and what I don't like, and so for the most part, they follow, they listen, so I'm very lucky in that aspect. But there are a lot out there who could use some advice. So my first point would be to say, don't forget to book out. I know it's something, as a parent, you're always running around. You're so busy with kids. You have a job, you have these auditions to get to and so many personal matters that you just forget to tell your agent that you're unavailable. That kills us personally, because if we don't hear from you that you are unavailable, we assume that you are ready and waiting to audition and you are willing to go ahead and get to an audition, per se, on short notice. So please book out at least a day. The earlier you tell us, the better. But just book out. Let us know when you're unavailable. Don't be late to auditions. Running late to an audition is like being late to a job interview. You are making a bad first impression, and that cannot be good for you, for the casting director, or for us as your agent.
Well, it makes you look bad because the casting directors go, okay, Ani sent this person, so I know they're going to be on time and they're going to know. So it actually hurts. It could hurt you as well if it's a chronic thing.
Yeah, and we also always want to make sure that we, send in valuable talent, respectful of their time, and so we want to make sure that our team at Avalon Artist Group is always prepared. Third thing would be always take a headshot on a resume. Even if it says you don't need one, just have one in your back pocket somewhere, maybe in a folder, just because you never know who's going to be in the room. It might just so happen that their computers crash and they all of a sudden need a hard copy. So always go have your sides memorized if there are sides, go dressed in wardrobe, headshot resume in hand, and be on time.
So that's one thing. And hard copies aren't expensive anymore. This isn't 1980. Headshots are, a hard copy of a headshot is $1.50 tops.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you don't need 100 of them. You need 5.
Yeah.
And
5.
And keep them in a folder, keep them in your car. Well, I know moms, if it's safe in your car, keep it in your car. Find a spot that it's safe and just have it with you all the time. I mean, have it with you at the grocery store. You never know who you're going to run into.
Exactly.
Right. So have a headshot and a resume on you. It's not hard. Now the other thing, going backwards a little bit, I've had people kind of mention like, oh, it's so expensive to upload pictures. It's like $10, $25 top per image. Now, back in the olden days when people used to hard copy submit, you would buy a stack of 100 and it was like, it was ridiculous. So even at $10 or $20 an image,
it's gotten a lot easier.
It's not expensive. Yeah. That's a one-time upload fee, and then you're done. You don't have to reprint. It's done. So, do you have anything else you want to share with us today?
I actually do. I want to talk about self-submissions.
Okay.
Because as actors yourselves, you always want to ask your agent what their policy is on self-submissions. I encourage it personally, and we all do at our agency, but I do want to warn you, just be careful on what you self-submit on. Whether you're an actor self-submitting yourself or a parent submitting your child, just be cautious. You're going to want to submit on jobs that you think would make a positive impact on your resume, so read everything before you self-submit, and just be cautious of the words all media in perpetuity buyout, because that means you will get paid a one-time fee. Usually it's a small fee, and they will use your footage forever. You can be on a bus somewhere in 10 years, you could be on a billboard somewhere in 10 years, and you wouldn't get paid. So while I do encourage finding your self-work to keep yourself busy, just in case it might be slow or you're not getting out as much as you'd like to, always build, always try to be proactive yourself, but at the same time, just be very careful. And if you have any questions at all whatsoever, have any doubts, always call us, email us, get our opinion. If you are contacted by a casting director, offered a job, offered work, tell your agent. Don't confirm yourself, because at that point, once we find out about the booking, we cannot do more to negotiate for you.
And that's one of the perks of having an agent is it's like, well, I see you want them, but let me get you more money. Let me get you a better contract. Make sure, especially with the youth, because there's a lot of little things that that I'm not going to say people do thinking that mom's not going to pay attention, but there's a lot of things people do thinking that mom's not going to pay attention. Yeah. So it's great to have someone like Ani on your side. Thank you. So that's awesome. So do you have any stories for us? You don't? Okay. None. She's not going to tell us any stories. That's good.
I'm not allowed.
That's fine. Well, I really, really appreciate you coming on this vlog. I know you're super busy, so I'm going to let you get back to submitting. One more thing I wanted to ask you. Now, I know you said call me, call your agent and stuff, but is there a fine line between call your agent and, oh my God, I'm working?
Oh yeah, there definitely is.
So don't be that. Don't be that person. Whether you're an adult or a youth, and a parent doing it. Now I've heard there's kind of like a unknown rule of thumb, like don't bother your agent before 3 p.m. because you're busy submitting. Like, is that just kind of depend?
It so depends on the day. Especially with us, there are some times where I'm more than happy to take a 20-minute phone call with a client. Other times I am neck deep in breakdowns. So I always say, rule of thumb, if you are running late to an audition, hopefully you won't be, but you never know if you are, that's a phone call. If something is urgent, if you are on set and there is an emergency or you have a question about a contract, that's a phone call. Just pick up the phone and call me. I will always talk to you. If you have just a general question about headshots, maybe about maybe taking a class or just building on yourself, if it's just a general question, I prefer email communication. That way I can flag it when I have a moment, get back to it, and really think about what I'm going to say in my answer. And that way there's also a paper trail. You know, if you ever forget what I told you or something, you can always go back and check your email.
Perfect. So again, make your correspondence short and to the point. I mean, I know that you're, especially if you're fortunate enough to have Ani as an agent, you're going to feel like she's your best friend because she's amazing. But remember, she's busy. So, and I know that goes for all agents. You guys work hard. You guys have a super hard job, and we appreciate you. And thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. This has been a pleasure, and she is awesome.
Well, thank you. So, I'm going to say this. Go to my YouTube channel and subscribe. Share this video with every single person you know. Leave me comments. Tell me how awesome Ani is, and we will see you next week. Thanks a lot.